Hey, Nicole Hernandez here. I was just going to take you guys behind the scenes a little bit as to how we put together a story. So, when you see a package that we've done on the news, that's something that I have shot all the video for. I've written it and I've edited it all. So, a package that I do that I sign out in Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News, that's something that I've done every part of. It's the reason that I love this job. Doing this right here is like my absolute favorite part of the job. So I'm in the middle of a story right now. This story, I decided to do this story when I was driving away from my mom's house the other day. It was maybe middle of summer, middle of July. I drove away from my mom's house and I saw these two girls on the corner doing a lemonade stand. And I thought, wow, you just don't see lemonade stands outside of your summer months, right? Because it's nice to be outside. It's nice to do it. And I thought, a lemonade stand is something I would never want to personally do, but I love summer in my own separate ways, right? I love hiking with our dog Ham. I love swimming in the lakes. It's my favorite part of summer. And then other people have their own different loves and hobbies, right? We've got people who fish. We have people who boat. We have people who golf. And so I wanted to capture that feeling of what it's like to spend a summer here in the inland Northwest. It's special. It's beautiful. It's warm. People are outside. They're gathering. They're having fun. The way I decided to capture that feeling was through telling a story with many different characters. So the characters that I chose for the story, I met, a fisherman. Popping up here. I went fishing with this guy in the middle of downtown Spokane. That was really fun. And then I found this woman here. It's loading. There we go. She spends her summers in her retirement community hanging out on the patio, doing all the fun activities. This one was tie-dyeing, so we tie-dyed together. That was very sweet. And then I drove by this kid on the side of the street. He was adorable. Not a lemonade stand. He was selling his art. It was very cute. And so I talked with him, got permission from his mom, of course. And then the last one I went and shot was this little kid. He's a little over 1 year old. Talked to his mom about basically what it's like to watch her child experience these fun summer activities here in the inland Northwest for the very first time. He was super cute. He was infatuated with the sand in the sandbox. It was pretty sweet. So I figured I would just take you through the process as to how we do this. First, you have to have an idea, right? I just mentioned how I came up with the idea. And then we start setting up our interviews. So I just talk to people I know in the community. A few weeks ago, I did live shots with the Spokane riverkeeper. He's the one that connected me with this fisherman. While I was talking to the fisherman, a mom and her son walked by. It's this mom and son right here. I just asked on the street, hey, would you mind if we meet up at some point next week? She said yes, and here we are. So over the course of the past few weeks, I basically shot all of this video. Now I have all the video in one spot. This is Premiere. This is our editing software. The next step would be to write the story. What am I going to say? What am I going to have them say? What sound am I going to use? All those things. That's all very planned out in a story like this. So the way I start is basically looking at the interviews I did. This story was a little bit different. I decided not to do formal sit-down interviews. Typically with a story, we, sit someone down, we put up a camera, I sit across from them, and I ask them questions, and it's a sit-down interview style moment. I didn't do that with this story at all. Instead, I set each person up in their spot. So I set up the fisherman fishing, and then I asked him questions while he was fishing. And so this one will take a little bit more time and be a little bit harder to go through and figure out what I want to include, because the interview part is mingled in and mixed through as opposed to it being in one spot. So this one will be a little bit more challenging to put together, but worth it in the end, for sure. Basically, I just grab whatever length of our paper is here. Any day, I grab a pen and I get going. For this story, there's basically a couple of different types of stories you can do. You can do a character-based story, which is the one I think you most typically would see outside of a very straight informational story. character story would be driven by a person, a human. And again, that's what we do most of the time. This is more of a concept story. So I constructed this concept to capture the feeling of a fleeting inland Northwest summer. And I'm going to tell it through the eyes of several characters. So a little bit unconventional. With that, though, I ended up actually writing down what I felt like I should start the story with. So part of the script of the story. See if I can find it. Because I wrote it in my notes while I was on a walk. I was walking the bluff with Ham. And sometimes my mind just wanders. And it wandered to this story. And I decided to write part of it while walking. So I found it in my notes. Here we are. So I know I want to start with this line, so I'll write it down. And it's very chicken scratch. Because it's all like train of thought is basically how I do it. So I know I want to start with that line. And I know I want to go to this line. So I'm just going to write it down. And then I know I've left a space here. And I know I want to fill that space with sound and interesting moments from the video. So I'll leave a space there. And then we'll go through and try to find them.
Let's see.
So one of the big things that we do when starting the process of writing a story is it's important to know everything that we have. Traditionally, that's called logging. And so I don't necessarily do what we call traditional logging. Traditional logging would be physically writing down, whether it's typing or writing, everything that you've shot, everything that is said, every natural sound. I am more visual, so I will actually put things on my timeline. So for example, we'll play this video through and see if there's anything interesting in it.
Big trout just swam by.
No way. He said a big trout just swam by. That's the moment. His mic was on him, and so you heard me respond and say no way, but you won't actually hear that in the story. That was the other
Big trout just swam by here.
And so obviously my camera wasn't set correctly or anything, but
Just swam by.
there are ways that
Swam by.
we can work to edit around that. It's a moment, it's interesting, so I'm going to pull it. And so that would be an example of him saying a big trout just swam by, would be a perfect example of something I could put in the first compilation of Nat sound that I'm going to set up. Remember, I said I'm going to start off by introducing Summer, and then I'm going to introduce each of my characters with a 1 to 2 second something. That would potentially be a 1 to 2 second something. So I hit L on the keyboard, and that fast forwards it times 2. It sounds quite annoying, but it allows me to get through the video faster. Obviously, I have dozens of clips here, and so as I'm going through, I'll fast forward it, and then based on my memory of the conversation we had, I can pick up enough words through the jumble to know what he's talking about and know if it was something I was interested in. Because in the moment, when I'm sitting here listening, I have headphones on and behind my camera, I'm asking him questions. And in that moment, I'm thinking, oh, that's something interesting. Oh, that's something I want to use. Or that's not something that really goes with the story. We gather a ton of different information, moments, shots that don't end up in the final edit because they just don't go with the theme of the story, the focus of the story.
Session in and then go over to the concert after.
Struggling loading today for some reason. I just updated Premiere, so it might just be that.
It's also easy enough if you work downtown, just pop a leader on break, have your fishing rod in your office or in front of your car, and then get like a, half an hour fishing it and stand outside. It's also an easy spot to kind of bring in and friends that, like other fishing, you have coordinators, you can still get in the waters, you have to work out wading around and then.
So he's talking more about
kind of like
downtown fishing, which is not the focus of your story.
And, this time being able to.
So we're just getting
outside start fishing.
What's your separate how do you do at the values?
I think that's the time of the year. So earlier this summer, when there's more insects, white insects that are hatching, the trout.
Still more fishing.
And so there, I would say I would generally catch at least 1 or 2 fish. This time of year, I'm mainly targeting large scale suckers. There's some.
Oh, see, that might be interesting. What is he fishing for?
Mainly targeting large scale suckers. So just some some of the larger fish in the river. And
See, that's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll want to include that. That's something surface level. Maybe something someone's curious about that.
and there it's maybe one fish every other trip down to March. Yeah. But the big fish. You gotta be careful, people walking around, especially if you're fishing with wire on laying in techniques. Keep fishing, not at it. No, worry about it. Okay, somebody.
So yeah, that's basically it. Now we do this through every single clip. I'm on clip 2 of, I don't even know how many there are. Dozens at this point. So I will continue doing that. And then as I see things I like, I will start writing down those things. And then I'll start connecting them. That's why this becomes a chicken scratch piece of paper, because I'll write them down, I'll draw arrows, and I'll write things and put lines I can think of. And then eventually I take this chicken scratch and I put it in the computer and I type it out in a way that becomes an actual script. And then we go from there and we take that script and we edit.